Welcome in to the DNVR Avalanche Podcast. Rudo, Eric, AJ. I did that in the wrong order, but it's fine. Yeah, it was behind the graphic, so we're good. Look, the season starts less than 2 weeks from now. It's going to come quickly. And yet it still feels so far away at the same time. So a little bit of an interesting part of the preseason.
Simultaneously, it feels like we've been in the preseason forever.
Yeah.
But also knowing 1 week ago today, we were at training camp.
Yep. What is time, really?
Stages.
Look, I wanted to talk about what the Avs still need to accomplish before this season gets going. We talked about waivers a ton yesterday. AJ, you were not on that show. If you're the Avs, are you hunting waivers hard for a goalie, a defenseman? It's probably not a forward at this point, but
Yeah.
Okay.
Doesn't mean I'm committing to claiming anybody, but I am definitely doing a lot of work on depth charts of the other teams, and probably highlighting 5 to 8 players, saying we think these guys are on bubbles. If they come available, we have interest.
Yep.
I would say probably that's where I would be with it.
Okay.
I just don't think that they have such a need, but it's more like trying to get ahead.
Sure.
Because you know it's coming.
It always does.
Exactly. And if Brad Hunt is your 7th guy right now on defense,
It's a little lacking,
wouldn't you be a little happier if Brad Hunt was your 8th guy?
Yep.
And that's where I am with it. I would be happier if Brad Hunt is my 8th guy.
Well, and look, Brad Hunt is a guy who last year had no trouble passing through waivers for Colorado either. So it's someone they can feel pretty comfortable about in that situation.
Yeah. And if he's going to be captain of the Eagles, go be captain of the Eagles and don't be messing around up here.
Until he gets spike claimed by somebody. But
Paverbeek, once again, he's going to do it, man. He did it. He did it last year. He's going to do it again.
It happens. I wanted to start off the actual conversation today with this. Eric, you've played for a bunch of different teams in your time. You get into preseason.
Jeez.
How long does it take to pick up these systems? You were talking a lot about the first 3 days of training camps, how everything now is, this is a systems work. It's systems work.
Yeah.
Every day is systems work. If you're a Jonathan Druin, if you're a Ross Colton, you have 2 more weeks. Are you good to go with these systems on day 1, game 1? Are you ready, or are there still things that you're going to need to work on as you get into the season?
Well, those guys are smart players too. If you're talking about seasoned vets, right? So they know they've already sat down with Ray or Prater or those guys, and you got to remember the Avs have their own little video, or Brett, the video coach.
Yep.
Sit down and they have something ready, because you got to remember sometimes during the season you claim a guy on waivers or you make a trade and guy comes in at 4:00 in the afternoon right before the game, and then he's got to go play a game, and there's playoff implications. There's you got to know what you're doing. So you got to remember they have a little bit of 4 or 5 minute video there. This is how we break out. Ideally break out. This is how we forecheck. This is how we play in the neutral zone. This is what we do in offensive zone faceoffs, neutral zone faceoffs. So you got to remember these guys have sat down with Brett or one of the coaches already. I was complaining about the first 3 days of practice last week, saying, "Oh God, I'd rather, I'd like to see scrimmages, But you got to remember, for coaches, they want to get to the nitty gritty of their systems, and for guys like Wood, Colton, Tatar, it's important to go through that stuff.
Yeah.
As much as they didn't listen to my complaints and just didn't do scrimmages, but even though I look like I'm an Avs coach right now with my pants, I look like I'm part of the staff.
You do have the blue jumper there a little bit.
The blue pants. But yeah, so those guys are you get up there a few games, feel it out, know what's up, feel not just that, not the systems, but also your line mates and everything. So, yeah, it is, important to get down to your numbers as a coaching staff. You could tell today Bednar was, he wants to get down a little bit to his numbers. It's nice, and it's awesome to reward, we'll talk about Ivan, guys like that. It's awesome, it's great. But realistically, they all, he knows he's not going to start the season there, neither is Bednar. He knows that too. So they want to get to their numbers. They want to get down to those real practices, get ready for games. So when the puck does go on the ground, they're ready to go. I mean, the power play's got to be humming. The PK's got to be humming. Those are important parts of they're going to be working on here the next 2 weeks. And you got to make sure your goalies are ready to go. That's why I think they're not going to mess around. They're going to make sure they play full games here, whether it's Eustace and Georgiev. That's what they end up starting with. You saw Eustace yesterday get the full game, right? I believe it was the full game. And, probably see Georgiev play the full game Sunday, right? I would assume.
Yeah.
So you make sure your goaltending, obviously, everything's humming on D and forward, and then your special teams. So I love the fact that they're starting on the road too. So then all of a sudden the camaraderie and the tightness and there's some new guys. They're gonna get to know each other, and there's no better way to do it than to get on the road.
You have Megan Angley also talking about this in the chat, saying Cogliano helping out some of those new guys figure out a couple of things. Which also leads me into our next conversation.
Megan, it's your day off. Go have your day off.
She's coming in for TDSP, so it's not even her day off.
I heard about this, yeah. Felt like we messed up that schedule then. Yeah. She should have had yesterday, and I should have been.
Whatever. We're all always working.
My bad.
That's the reality. The other side of this, Logan O'Connor, another guy at practice today, was working with Ivan. The Avs did make some cuts this morning. I don't think any of the people that got cut were all that surprising.
Like a small surprise about Keaton Middleton, just because we had talked about,
is he the eighth
he
or
looks
something?
Good, and maybe they want to give him an extra look, maybe another game or two. So again, like a small surprise, just that it was so early, not that it happened.
But the guys they didn't cut in Ivan and Maros Jadlishka, still there, still talking. I don't think, for those who have been paying attention to our stuff, probably not that surprised that Ivan is still around.
Yeah.
He's had a really good camp going all the way back to the rookie stuff. He plays that style of game that everybody knows Jared Bednar's going to love. Is there a contract here? Is it coming? Or is this just an AHL thing for Ivan?
I mean, the conversation that Bednar had about today about, hey, look, he can help the Eagles.
Yep.
Look, the Avalanche have to find guys like this. They've done a very poor job, a league worst job, drafting, getting them into the AHL, and getting them to the NHL.
Yep.
So we've talked about, Megan especially has talked a lot about the kind of an unconventional prospect pool.
Yep.
And, an unconventional approach to building one. And lots of college free agents. That's been a market they've been aggressive in. But getting a guy like an Ivan would be different for them. They've gone the undrafted college kid route, pulling a pretty mature, polished kid.
You're talking about 22, 23-year-old kids at that point.
This, with Ivan, he's 20. He's a little different. He's on an AHL deal already, so they liked him enough without ever having gotten him into pro hockey.
Yep.
They liked him enough to begin that transition for him. But this is just showing a kid some love. And it's about, it's about telling him, we love you. We love what you're doing. You keep this up. We think you're going to be a part of this. It lets the coaching staff, certainly Eagles camp starts Monday. And so it's the coaching, the NHL and AHL staff still have a couple of days with him.
Yep.
To kind of work with them, do whatever. We've talked, they're at 45 contracts right now. We expect by the end of the year, it will be closer to 48-ish.
Yep.
Because Barron's will get a deal, and his deal will begin this year. It'll burn.
We'll get to it, but we have to talk about another potential contract today. We'll do that later.
Yeah. I assume you mean Holland.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's you're kind of 45 with an asterisk of it's going to be 46.
Yep.
And then you're adding somebody at the deadline.
Yep.
Is that for a pick? Is that for a contract? You don't know. So you should really
Give
say
yourself one contract wiggle room.
I would
there.
even say 2,
Sure.
just to be safe.
Sure.
You want 2. So you are looking. It's 45 right now. Oh, they've got space. Well,
No.
it's really 46. You hold 2 open. You're really at 48.
Yep.
And so right now, Ivan, he's already signed to play for the Eagles. He's probably not playing for an NHL team this year, even if you give him an ELC.
Yeah.
So why bother, right?
No need to rush it.
If you can pull him aside and you can say, hey, we love what you're doing. We want you on an AHL deal. The thing about AHL deals, 31 other teams can also watch him in the AHL and
give
say,
him a contract. Yeah.
we love this. We want to give this guy an ELC. They can do that. And the Avs have to kind of guard against that a little bit. Obviously, they could end the conversation entirely by signing him.
Yeah.
But we just talked about, hey, if you want to save that space.
You got to float something here or there.
And when push comes to shove, if he's like, hey, I'm going to sign an ELC with another team, if you guys don't give me one,
then just give
they
him
can
one,
step
yeah.
up to the plate and decide to do that.
Yeah.
But at the moment, they're not there yet. They don't have that. Showing him a little bit of love here could be a big thing.
Yep.
And honestly, like, this is just rewarding a guy. It also sends the message to the Ben Meyers of the world, to anybody, any future guys that they want to sign in Colorado of, if you show up and you perform, we don't care.
Yep.
We don't care that you were, we brought 40 guys to this camp or 35 forwards to this camp.
Yep.
We don't care that you were 35th at the start of it.
If you're the best one, you're the best one.
A
Man.
couple weeks into it now, and you're still here.
Yep.
He's earned that. And that is what, as an organization, what you want to do. You want to set up that kind of accountability. You want to set up that feeling among your players that if you do put in the work, you have a chance. You'll put yourself on that map.
Well, that's culture, right? We talk about the culture. It's not
Yeah.
just in the dressing room. It's the culture within the organization, and they've done that. And if you go back to Ivan, which we all loved in Vegas,
Yeah.
right?
Loved
And
him.
It was awesome. We're like, hey, making fun of the name. Oh, what a great name,
Should have worn 11.
Yeah, exactly. And then it was fun. But what it does show people out there or young kids out there, they get all devastated if they don't get drafted. And, here's a perfect example.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean nothing. It doesn't mean that you don't get drafted at 18 years old, that, you're not going to get a chance somewhere. What it does, like Rudo just said, or you just said, you might show up, be the 35th forward, whatever it is on paper. But then everything goes out the window once you put in the work. Youthful enthusiasm is infectious. You know what I mean? And it's been great the last couple weeks to watch him. And from us to the coaching staff to the players to Logan O'Connor, whatever, you're like, wow, this guy's got it. And then it makes you wonder, how come this guy didn't get drafted? When there's so many guys, a lot of times, that, they're not very good picks. Let's not kid ourselves. It's awesome that you get drafted in the NHL, but sometimes, it wasn't a very solid pick. So
let's be honest. In the 7th round, you're throwing darts, right?
that's what I'm trying to say. So
I mean,
guy
look at
like
the guy
that,
the Avs drafted in the 5th round this year. Shibnikov, he's never coming over.
Probably not.
So I
He's
mean,
fun,
If they had drafted Ivan in the 5th round, how differently would we feel about this conversation? None.
It'd be this. It would have been the same on draft day.
It-
Yeah, it is.
The
I mean-
conversation would be exactly the same today.
Yep.
it's fun, and then when it does, it just shows to agents out there and different Ivans of the world next year that, hey, the Avs do give an opportunity to guys like that. You know what I mean? And it's it's cool. It's cool to see. And then to go back to waivers and Middleton, we talked about that a little bit yesterday. You weren't listening. I mean, sorry, you weren't on the show.
I was also not listening.
You were not listening.
I was
sorry.
at the doctor.
I'm
sorry.
sorry. I didn't mean it that way. It just came out that way. If I'm a guy like the Avs, if I'm an organization like the Avs, and I believe in it, then you throw Middleton right away. You don't wait till a few more weeks go down, a few more games are played, then there's injuries, and if I'm gonna make sure that this guy starts the season, because he is a depth guy for the Avalanche, I throw him down early rather than later, because there's less chances that he gets picked up. And I'm not saying that Keaton Middleton would get picked up. He might. I mean, I don't know, but it's just easier once you do it early than if you do it later.
Yeah.
Once a lot more games have been played around the National Hockey League, and guys like, oh, well, you know what, we need a big body, and we'll just take him.
Outside of goaltenders, it is rare to see waiver claims 2 weeks before the season starts.
Yep.
It's the last round of cuts that teams have really honed in.
Yeah.
And that's, as we talked about earlier, it's because teams have their lists of guys that they're keeping an eye on.
Well, I'll
Yep.
give you a story about a guy that you guys know Ryan Graves. Mm-hmm. And you're talking about listening to depth charts and watching depth charts. As management, like in different teams, like everybody's watching everybody's depth charts. Mm-hmm. So at that time that the Avs might have a problem with this guy Ryan Graves, meaning he's gonna get sent down. And then you have reports on him. You look and it's like, okay, but you got to remember, if you take a claim and like if you put a claim in and you take him, you got to keep him on your roster, right? So is he better than some of our guys? And I remember us in Calgary really looking at him and we were saying, this year he's going to get sent down. That's our chance to take him. By that time in the summer, you make a couple different moves. You sign a couple different guys, and then there comes the time the Avs will put Ryan Graves right away down. You're like, God, because you got to remember. Waivers to come in on your phones at 10 a.m. That's the first thing you see at 10 a.m. Everybody around the league gets it. And then you got 24 hours, right? Which sparks discussions, with your pro staff. And then it's like, but who do we take out our roster? You know what I mean? So then at that time, Ryan Graves has not really played a lot of games. So it's like, it's hard to justify to say, well, he's better than player X. So then he goes through, and then you're like, crap. Now it's like, then you play a few more exhibition games. By first week of the season, you lose 2 Ds, and you're like, man, we had our chance with Ryan Graves. You know what I mean? But really, that chance wasn't there because you had no room for him.
And that's something I think we didn't get into too much yesterday. If the Avs are looking to make a waiver claim, and maybe they do, maybe they don't. Yeah. But if they do, they don't have any cap space.
Exactly.
They need to send someone that we have been projecting to make the roster down. Is that Curtis McDermott? Is it Ben Myers? Is it whoever it ends up being? Probably Myers is my assumption, given that he's waiver exempt.
Yeah.
But
it's the cleanest way to do it is Myers. The easiest way to make the money work is McDermott because he's the most expensive of these guys.
Yeah.
Which also probably kills the Connor Timmins conversation.
Yeah.
Just because at 1.1 million, it's like
it's too much. Yeah.
You're like, you only have 400K of space or whatever. Like,
yeah.
You can't spend that. It's hard math.
Awfully tight. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a big puzzle.
And Ryan Graves is an interesting guy because Graves was supposed to make the Rangers.
That's right.
Yep.
Like they were waiting for him to make the Rangers. He did not do it. Ends up back in Hartford and is moved 1-for-1 for another prospect that was supposed to make his team that year and didn't, in Chris Bigras.
Yeah, Bigras, right.
And Ryan Graves a funny one because when he got here, he wasn't that great.
His AHL numbers were bad.
The Avs called him up out of necessity, and he
was really good in the NHL.
Hung around, and then became a full-time guy the next season.
Yep,
it took time.
That's what I mean. But
Graves is an interesting
at that time,
example.
You're like, he hasn't played. Like, is he better than? I would have to look back at the roster in Calgary, for example. You know what I mean? Like, which I don't remember, but is he better than this guy? Is he better than that guy? And you're like, well, no, but he could be better. You know what I mean? But then is a big difference. Yeah. It could be,
And like, this is one of those things about, I know you guys talked waivers yesterday, so I won't spend a ton, but like, this is one of those things about the waiver conversation that people lose sight of like, is whatever guy,
right. It's not just, hey, we got a guy, drop him in. There's repercussions to that guy joining the lineup.
But it's not... We claimed him and we can send him to the Eagles and he'll be really good depth for us.
No.
That's what that team that you claimed him from was trying to do. It's you have to claim, does he make your NHL team better?
Yep.
Is he better? Is he a better fit? Columbus today claims Spencer Martin. Goalie claims are a little different. There's way fewer spots available, so an injury looms a lot larger.
Yep.
Or in Columbus's case, they haven't had a puck get stopped in about 2 years. So they're just desperate for anything at this point.
But for people to understand, because, I'm sure a lot of people, I know you guys know.
Yeah.
Some people don't understand, too. It's if Spencer Martin goes back on waivers, Vancouver has first dibs on him.
Yeah.
Can just take him and directly put him down in their AHL team. And that's the part that people don't understand.
Those 30 days.
That's right.
You have to. It's 30 days or 10 games, whichever one happens first. So you have to keep him for a minimum of those. Otherwise, if you send him back on waivers, that's what happens.
Just take him right out.
That team just gets to do what they wanted to do in the first place.
I think we saw JoJo, right? Was it JoJo?
Yeah. Yeah, because Arizona claimed him last year.
Yeah.
And then Connor Ingram went on waivers. They claimed Ingram, sent JoJo down, and the Avs said, great, come on back.
Yep. And which he goes directly to Loveland.
Yep, he went
doesn't
directly
need
to
to clear
Loveland.
waivers, so.
And now he's Tampa Bay starting goaltender.
For now.
Good
Life-
luck with
life
that.
comes
Tampa.
at you fast.
Yeah, good
For
luck
now.
with that.
Do you think he as a competitor, he's excited about that, but like also you're now the starting goaltender for the Tampa Bay Lightning?
I mean, I think he knows that's going to change pretty quick.
At the moment, like, sure he can do that math, but until it happens,
Yeah.
I mean, you're a pro, right? You're a competitor. I'm sure he's excited, right?
Yeah.
But I'm with you. And like Rudo said, I think in the back of his mind, they're like, oh, it could be temporary. I don't know how long. Is it a day? Is it a week? Is it a month?
Yeah.
I don't know. Are you talking about like,
At best.
oh, just add a goalie? It's not that easy. As as tight as they are to the cap. Like,
well, and so as tight as they are, because of that, it's not like they could just claim a guy and call it good, right?
Yeah.
Like they might need to do
A little work to get it
money in,
sorted.
money out.
Yeah.
and it's not season ending for Vasilevsky. It's whatever it is. What
10 weeks.
10 weeks. Yeah.
Yeah, so you need to get through 10 weeks. But also, we talk about it every October. You can't make the playoffs in October, but you can miss them.
Yep.
Yeah.
If Jonas Johansson goes out and goes 1-9 in 10 games,
You're in trouble. Yeah.
suddenly that 10 weeks feels like it might as well be 50. It doesn't matter. Your season could be over.
Well, don't let your season end without giving yourself some snarfs. Fantastic sandwiches. Couple different locations, obviously. OG's down at the DU campus. So go get your snarfs wherever you can find it. They have incredible quality. They have fresh ingredients every single day. It's super awesome. Yeah, look, Eric's got their jardinera peppers. I don't know if that's the right
World
way to
famous
say that.
hot. There's a mustache on it.
It's
There's
the
a
good stuff.
mustache on it.
Yeah.
It's the good stuff.
Just
all
a
right?
tremendous sentence.
You can get the jar in your stores if you want to put it on sandwiches at home, or of course you can get it at your Snarf's location. They make fantastic sandwiches. Their bread is all like home baked. It's all amazing stuff. You
So
cannot
good,
go
man.
wrong with a Snarf's sandwich, no matter which one you're getting. They even have a burger joint or two if you would prefer burgers. Go check that out. Be sure to download the Snarf's app today. When you use code DNVR fans by September 30th, that's tomorrow. So get in on this right now. You can get a BOGO 7-inch sub. You go enter by getting the Snarf's app, create an account, go to the More section, click on coupons, enter the DNVR fans code, and then enjoy yourself some sandwiches with Snarf's. Jump on it today. They're also at our tailgates for the Broncos if you want to eat away your sadness. Also an option for you. Also brought to you by Fubo TV. They've got over 140 live channels of sports, shows, movies, news, and more. You can stream live TV from any device and watch your Colorado sports for the lowest price. You go to FuboTV.com/DNVR or use that QR code right on the screen there to sign up. And when you do, you'll get 15% off your first month of Fubo Pro. They've got all sorts of fantastic sports beyond just, the Colorado ones. Ryder Cup just started. If you're into golf, that's your thing. They've got all sorts of college football coverage. NFL Red Zone.
Ryder Cup started and Ryder Cup ended.
Yeah, they
on day
the U.S.
one.
didn't do so good. U.S. didn't do so good on day one. They've also got tennis, all sorts of amazing stuff with Fubo TV right on your television. You don't have to jump through any hoops. You don't have to use like a Chromecast or something crazy. You just get it on your TV and you're watching TV. And they give you a 1,000-hour DVR for no extra charge. So you can always catch whatever it is, even if you're stepping out for the night. Check them out, FuboTV.com/DNVR to get signed up and your 15% off the first month today. Second period of the DNVR Avalanche podcast. So I did want to talk about this. It's been reported that Peter Holland has been offered a contract from Colorado, but maybe.
He's been offered a chance to go to Eagles camp.
So what I've heard is that there was a contract, but it requires reassignment. Like he would go down to the AHL.
It was later clarified.
Okay.
That
Yeah.
at the moment it is Eagles camp
Okay.
specifically, and we'll see.
Go from there.
Yes.
Sure.
Which, if I can jump in,
Yeah, go
which
for it.
I think you're talking about a veteran now. What is he now? 32,
Yeah,
32. So here's my thought process on this. You haven't played in over a year. Mm-hmm. I do believe, and I don't know what the expectations were for him or for himself, but arguably picked to be Stanley Cup champions this year. So it's a good squad, right? The Avalanche are a good squad. You haven't played in a year. I do believe that you had to think in your mind that you were going to come here for a bit and then go own your craft a little bit. Like, get back into your rhythm, get back into your serviceable player that he has been before at the NHL level, and get your rhythm, your feet, your timing back. So I do believe I think that was part of the plan. And go from there and be Monday morning at the ice, at Budweiser for Eagles camp.
If it's an AHL deal instead,
I have absolutely no problem with an AHL deal.
I mean, I have no problem honestly with either one. I don't love an NHL contract. I will
we just conversation we already had. Yeah, exactly.
We just walked through it. I like it not very much for Peter Holland, but if they did that, you think there has to be a chance that he's on the team this year. I guess they have to think that there's a chance he makes the team this year. The Ivan thing is a 3-year ELC. It is more than a 1-year commitment of
very different conversation.
It's a very different math for committing 3 years to that guy. So especially when they already know they're going to see what he's going to bring as an AHL player, and if he could translate a great preseason into a great season, it makes it a lot easier to give that guy an ELC. Whatever. So, but with Peter Holland, if it's an AHL only deal, I can understand why he's on the fence.
Yeah, but go down there, go work, and at some point, numbers change, right? They're never the same from one day to another, and the Avs get into a desperate position where, and we know there's holes there. I mean, we're not saying that. I mean, Coach Bednar is saying that. Like they want to see where they can make themselves better, right, at that center position, especially on the fourth line. So I think you go down there, make the best of your opportunity, show that you're willing to be ready. And if push comes to shove, they do need help, and then it's very easy. It takes 2 seconds, right? You give him a contract, he signs it, and he's here an hour later down the highway. So
if you're 32, do you want to do that though?
Right.
That was
24-year-old.
This is a guy who the last 3-4 years has been toiling away in European leagues in the AHL. So.
But that's my point. I don't know what the expectations were, coming in. But I do believe this is a Stanley Cup championship caliber team. You haven't played in a year. I think for me, the expectation would have been and I've been in that position, and I decided not to do it. And I get it. I am not making fun of them by any means.
Oh, yeah, no, of course.
It is a hard grind. It is tough. But you would think, okay, I'm going to go and do it. And I think that's where he's at. Do I go and do this, or do I not do it? Well, and I'll respect either way, because it is a tough position to be in.
I mean, here's where I would be at with this situation. This is nothing against Peter Holland. I'm sure he's a great guy. I'm sure he's an unbelievable hockey player.
For sure.
The Avs have a million other dudes at forward right now that they're trying to work through.
This is where I am.
And even, I think we're probably not the biggest fans of Riley Tufte here, but the Avs clearly seem to like him.
I'm out on Riley Tufte as a center. If he's in the wing conversation,
sure,
it's way more natural.
For sure.
We've talked all offseason about Ben Myers, about Frederick Olofsson.
Yeah.
You also have these other options here.
Andre Pavel.
Jason Poland, according to the radio, looked good in the game yesterday. You have a couple of other guys in those conversations as well.
Even if we limit it
something
to purely centers,
yep,
that conversation is still
right.
Ben Myers, Frederick Olofsson, and Andre Pavel are all ahead of him.
So the math gets hard there for me at the NHL level with Holland.
100%.
And where it is interesting, if Holland is willing to do it, like you were talking about, you look at their AHL lineup, and they don't really have any vet forwards. The one vet forward in their AHL lineup is Chris Wagner, who's hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point, Rudo. Because, you got to make sure you're not going down, and then you have a vet problem down there.
Yeah.
And that's not fun if you're a vet. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And, there are some older guys there. They have some 24, 25, 26-year-olds from those college free agent groups.
Right.
But those are not super experienced professional hockey players.
Yeah.
So
that's a great point.
That's where I think Holland would make a lot of sense organizationally for Colorado. Like you guys said, is that a role that he wants? I don't know.
Yeah. The interest from the Avs makes a lot of sense of we get this.
Yep.
But also, if they signed Kiviranta, for example,
right,
that's one more guy that's ahead of him.
Yep.
And so it becomes is he okay if you were to get an AHL deal?
Yeah.
He goes to Eagles camp, they like him. If you were just to get an AHL deal, is he okay with that? At 32, You're not making very much money on AHL deals.
I didn't do it. I just speaking same age, 31. Speaking from experience, it's not easy.
Yeah.
Be down there, be the good guy, and make sure that you help out those guys Rudo just named so they can go ahead of you.
It's not one of his.
It's a weird feeling.
It's not one of his organizations that he's spent time in either. It's not an Anaheim or Toronto.
Yeah, I know.
This is a Colorado. He's kind of a fish out of water here, where it's like, sure, Loveland and Denver are right down the road from each other, but he's not right down the road from anything that he's familiar with. So does he want to do that? He just had a baby. Yeah. Does he want to be in that position of, I'm on an AHL only deal. I am 32.
Yeah. It's tough.
That's my, we'll find out. I would completely understand if he just says.
Oh, totally.
Well, I think Bednar said it well this morning. I think he felt compassion for him, right? He's like, this is not an easy thing to do, but there's guys that are ahead of him right now at this point that we want to look at. And that's simple.
You can feel however you feel on a personal level.
Absolutely.
Jared Bednar has not made any bones about the fact that they are trying to win a Stanley Cup, and that this is a team that does not dick around the first month or two of the season, having a good old time. They take this seriously.
Get ahead,
from the hop.
stay ahead. Yeah,
Absolutely.
And last year they had to go into trauma response survival mode pretty much immediately.
And I think the takeaway they had from that season is let's not do that again.
Yeah, but also you do see the benefit of last year. They took it seriously from the jump. They win the division. They kept themselves in position, even with all the things that happened. They kept themselves within striking distance of the division all season long. And that's because they take it seriously. They don't punt on it and just say, oh, well, it's October. Who cares? And because of that, a guy like Peter Holland, Riley Tufte, does not have time to learn to play center the first 6 weeks of the season.
He's just, can he do it or not?
Exactly. And if he can't help them, if he's not an improvement on their wings right now, then he's not going to be here.
There's not a lot of time for experimenting. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Honestly, I think the 21-22 season is a good example in the regular season. The way the Avs do it is they say, hey, we come to play for minute one. If we get to March and we're 20 points ahead of everybody, then we can rest a little bit.
Yeah.
For sure.
And, obviously you have to turn it back up for the playoffs. But don't leave it up to having to work even harder because you didn't start strong.
Yeah. And a fast start would be a nice thing for the Avs.
Yep.
They haven't had many of those in recent years.
Yep.
First month of the season's kind of been a slog.
For a long time, actually.
Yeah. Last year was actually the one where it was like, hey.
It was starting out okay right up until November, basically.
Yeah, well.
Things went nuclear.
Yeah, and then in December it was like, we are really just surviving.
Yeah.
Well, if you look at a schedule, those are the things we used to do back here, this franchise. And Joe will be the first one to attest to this, is you look at the schedule, and then if you have a nice cushion and you're not chasing, you look about 2-3 weeks before the end of the season, you just take out this 1 or 2 games, and then you make the guy don't even come to practice. Next thing you know, he has like a 4 or 5 day break. And the guys used to have, I'm talking about the big guys. Forget about the pigeons like me. I'm talking about like the real players, the Georgiev, the Rantanens, the Makar. Just at some point, you give them that little, it's amazing what it does to your body and soul. Like, all of a sudden, you come back from those 4 or 5 days, you're rejuvenated, you're ready to go, and then you attack the end of the year and attack the playoffs in the right frame of mind. It's awesome what it does. It really does.
Yep.
And we have seen, we're talking end of the year, this Avs team, January on,
they know how to turn it up.
Real good for a few years now. So
well, and I think the Avs have seen it as well as anyone. If you get those 4 or 5 days off near the end of the year, look, you get to come into the playoffs. They're probably not 100%, but you're as healthy as you're going to be at the start of those playoffs.
100%. And that's, like when the season starts, I think as an athlete, as a hockey player, I don't know about, I didn't do other sports, you know what I mean? So.
You mean you didn't play for the Nuggets too?
Yeah, well, I could have probably. I can't even, I think I would airball every shot. My technique's not good. But you do know that you feel so good in the summer, you know what I mean? And then you're so rested, if you did the right things, and then And then all of a sudden, it just takes a couple days of camp, and then you got a few shots here and there, and you're like, oh, God, here's that feeling again. You know what I mean? Because you're never going to feel 100%. It's just it could be a nagging thumb. It could be just your groin's tight. It could be like your shoulder. There's always something. You know what I mean? And you just got to learn to play through it. You know what I mean? And then you're just never at 100%.
Well, and I do want to get a little bit more into that conversation in a minute, but if you have some health and injury problems caused by someone, call Bacchus and Shanker. 222-2222 today. Get in with them. They'll give you a free consultation at the 2 number or coloradolaw.net. When you go over there, if they think you have a case, they will take it on. You pay nothing up front. You don't pay until you win your case, which Bacchus and Shanker will make sure you do. They've won over $1 billion for their clients in the last 25 years. Very, very good at it. Whatever the situation is, if you were injured in a car accident, if it was a rideshare situation and you weren't driving, if you were hit by one of the scooters flying around downtown, or even if you were injured at work or something, they have your back. Give them a call, 2 number, or coloradolaw.net. Bacchus and Shanker will get you what you deserve.
You know, my favorite part about Bacchus and Shanker remains there's no money that you pay.
Yep.
You pay them when you get paid.
You don't, the moniker of you got to have money to make money is not true in this case.
Yeah, because I always just thought about it as in terms of like, if I'm in this situation, yeah, maybe I feel like I've been wronged, but I also feel like
$70 in my bank account's not going to get me very
seriously,
far.
like it's like, look, am I going to eat this week or am I going to pay a lawyer to try and get me more money
right
at the end of whatever settlement it is? And instead, in terms of Bacchus and Shanker, it's just not. It's not a concern, and so that's always part of that read that it's always really resonated with me as somebody who was very poor for a long time.
Yeah. Look, the best part is the money Bacchus and Shanker saves you can go spend it on some Shady Rays so you can look good or cover up your injuries.
So when you get your settlement from Bacchus and Shanker, you can go get some sunglasses.
There you go. It's that easy. Shady Rays.
Buffs game in the morning.
ShadyRays.com. Use code DNVR when you order it there, and you get 2 pairs or more. You get 50% off your entire order. You can go jump on it today. Highly recommend if you haven't tried them. They've been given 5 stars by over 250,000 people. Tons of different designs and styles. There's something for everyone to make you look good when it comes to sunglasses. Check them out. Again, ShadyRays.com or a brick and mortar in the Park Meadows Mall if you're local. Third period of the DNVR Avalanche podcast. This is something that I think is, I don't want to say looming over the Colorado Avalanche, but it's something that is on people's radars. Josh Manson. Is he going to come back and be fully healthy? Cale Makar talked about how he has this injury that's still kind of nagging him. It's been nagging him over the summer. Still doesn't seem like he's 100%.
Wasn't a little, like a touch concerning when Bednar was kind of so flippantly today? I don't think any of the guys feel like they're 100%.
It's September 29th.
What? What do you mean?
Yeah, it's tough.
He'll be fine.
Look, I'm sure they'll be okay. But you kind of mentioned it earlier in the show. Brad Hunt is your 7th D. They seem like they've committed to Curtis McDermott at forward at this point.
I asked this question the other day. Middleton's now out of it. Right now, today, who's your choice for 7th D?
I guess it has to be
Manson's
Hunt.
healthy, right? I
Yes.
mean, in your mind, yeah. In your calculations. Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah, it has to be Hunt, right?
Yeah.
It's Hunt for you guys?
Well,
I mean, the game that I was able to watch, I don't think it's Malinsky. I don't know how he actually looked the other
it's
night,
not Malinsky for one reason, because I don't want a younger guy. Again, he's not 18, but I don't want a younger
rookie.
I don't want a rookie that's got no experience sitting. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I
sure.
want him playing. So
Same.
I'd rather put the old grizzly bear, Brad Hunt there
Yeah.
to sit, and then But then again, you got Hunt, and you have Hunt because he's your guy down in with the Eagles. He's your captain. He's your he's your leader. He helps the guys down there. He helps right the ship, whether it's a forward or a D. He's just a solid pro. So he's a guy you love to have around. But you're going to be the seventh guy, I'd rather have Brad be the seventh guy and then have Malinsky play. And then all of a sudden when there's a hole in the lineup, then I'm using Malinsky. I mean, it could be Middleton you call back up, right? I mean, it is what it is. There's a lot of stuff you can do depending on what you need. But, yeah, I mean, that's what you're saying. This is where they're at right now, right? So
it would not surprise me if the way it ends up at the start of the season is they actually don't carry a D. And it's, hey, if
Two forwards.
Well, one of them ends up being Curtis McDermott, and they say, if it's an emergency, we can play him on D for 6 minutes for one game, and then we can call up Brett Hunt or whatever.
Yeah, because, we've been talking about, I think you have to have that D when you go on a 3-game road trip to start the season.
Yeah, but they get home after that trip, and you can
they're home for 3 days, and then they're gone on the road for another, 10.
Yeah, so you can kind of, fit a 21-man roster at times in there. And we know the Avs have been very, very active in the past in moving those guys up and down, at least on paper.
How seriously are we taking this Nate Klerman thing?
To make the NHL? No, I'm not.
Probably not right now, maybe down the road. But he's opening eyes, right? Which is, as you should, Ivan. I don't care how old you are, what your position is, how new you are to the organization. When you have a chance to go on the ice and coaches are there, one thing you have to do is impress them. And, and I think Nate's done that this camp, right? I mean, obviously, he's probably at his best camp. I don't know what camp this is for him. What is it, 3 maybe? Is it third camp?
Third, actual, so, as a pro, yeah.
You guys are way more up to date on this than I am, but, I think it's give and take 3 camps. And, he comes with experience, and some guys don't get it right away, and...
He's always been a slow burn kind of guy, a very slow development curve.
Sure.
So
he's been to about 7 rookie camps. I guess dev camps, not rookie camps, but yeah.
Good for him.
Megan in chat mentions Corey Schooneman. That's a guy that day one of training camp they had next to Josh Manson.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so that is kind of the name that I'm just not very familiar with the guy's game. I still haven't seen him really in a game with a real lineup. I want to see him next to NHL guys, against NHL guys. Maybe I have to wait till opening night for that. But
here's where this problem gets hard for me. I think you could probably make an argument stylistically. Maybe you like Klerman more than a Brad Hunt in that situation because you're talking about more of a shutdown guy.
Yeah.
But where I struggle with this is you're talking about inexperienced guys. You're talking about an Avalanche team that's trying to win a cup. It's trying to win every single night. There's going to be guys that are at least that good on waivers. You can go out and get a guy. You might be able to go out and get a guy that you're considering putting in the lineup ahead of Jack Johnson on waivers.
Carolina.
So I struggle to see how, if they like those guys, why aren't they looking at options on waivers to help them more immediately with more experience and things like that?
Oh, they will, right? As you're saying, they will. They look at rosters every day, and then Schooneman, it's funny because having worked in Calgary, not last year, but the years before, Schooneman was for example, Ivan.
Yeah,
he was one of our guys that came in as an AHL deal and worked into getting an NHL deal, or was going back to juniors. He ended up going back to juniors. I want to say Seattle at the time, and then it's funny because now you're fast forward 2-3 years later, it's the same conversations and. Like Megan said, that's a guy that can, I use baseball terms all the time. That's a guy that can pitch it, for a few innings for sure. You know what I mean? He can be a serviceable guy. But again, there's a big difference between that and then you're trying to win the Stanley Cup, right? So there's a little difference there. And I think,
it's an important distinction right now because right now you're not winning a Stanley Cup. You're trying to get to the playoffs.
That's right.
And the trade deadline is about winning a Stanley Cup. The first 5 months of the season is about making the postseason.
You gotta get in.
And about trying to get home ice and all that other shit. Because we talked about it with Dennis Morgan last year. Dennis Morgan's a guy that can get you through a regular season. He can't get through through a postseason.
Yep.
Not in a prominent role anyway. Corey Schooneman could be a 7th D. Yep. But come start of the postseason, if that's your 7th D,
you're in trouble. Yeah.
Well, you certainly don't have confidence.
You better have the healthiest D of all time.
Yeah. But for people that don't know him, he's a smart player. He's a good skater. Mm-hmm. He's kind of a guy that does everything well. Maybe not like the most physical guy, not the best power play guy. He just does everything well. You know,
there
what I mean?
there isn't a real sex appeal to the game.
But he's a smart
wow
guy.
factor.
He's a good kid, and then he's gonna find his way to play some NHL games this year. Somewhere, whether it's here or we don't know the future, right? So, but
the major thing that haven't talked about on this show yet that the Avs do need to sort out: who's taking the last forward spots in their roster? Is it Ben Myers down the middle? Is Fredrik Olofsson going to take that spot? Will Curtis McDermott draw into the lineup somehow? Is this Riley Tufte thing going to happen?
I think it's still Fredrik Olofsson and Curtis McDermott.
Okay. McDermott is the 13th.
Yep.
We're not arguing today. I agree with him.
All right. Okay.
I mean, that's where I think it's headed.
Yeah.
I think they are looking for reasons to keep McDermott. He has a goal and an assist in two preseason games. As a forward, he's doing everything that you could have asked for him to do in a preseason to make that decision easier for them. He has not opened up the door. We know who he is as an NHL player. We know who he isn't.
Sure. It's fine.
But it's like
I
just think he's in there for now.
My only reservation about that is it sure seems like they're trying to give Riley Tufte a lot of runway this preseason.
Well, and they take him off of center last night.
Yep.
And to me, that's the death of his case to make the team.
Just not going to do it at wing, full stop.
Not for opening night.
Obviously,
Injury
injuries
number
down the
one
line,
happens.
whatever. Yeah.
We're seeing Riley Tufte in Colorado.
We're
this
talking
year.
about opening night.
We should
right now,
be real about this here.
For sure.
We're talking about
agree.
Ben Myers or Riley Tufte and versus Fredrik Olofsson. They're all going to play for the Avalanche this season. They are. Curtis McDermott. All of these guys will play for the Avalanche, barring a waiver claim. They will be in Avalanche uniforms.
But look, in preseason, you're deciding that pecking order right now.
For sure.
Yep.
And you're right. A big part of that is, Fredrik Olofsson, Ben Myers can play center.
Yeah. That's their big weakness in their forward core right now.
Yep.
Especially if they are looking at Curtis McDermott and saying he's our 13th guy.
Because he
That's
don't play
not
center.
a center.
Yeah.
So you need...
But
you can't dick around with this and get cute. You need the center.
And that's why Curtis is valuable too, Dermy, because he's, I know people will say, oh, he's not the best D. No, but he's played over 100 games in the NHL on D. So that's a guy, if you're on a road trip and you need a guy to give you 10 minutes on D, he can do it.
And the Avs have they've proven that they're comfortable
he's
with
a versatile
whatever he
guy.
gives
He's a
them.
nice guy to have for all the reasons. We know the toughness, but, he can play D, he can play forward.
In the regular season, the Avs are comfortable playing McDermott wherever
100%.
they need to.
100%.
So.
The only reason I approach it a little differently right now is just because they said, we want him at forward.
Yeah.
We're thinking of him as a forward. We're not trying to do this. I think they probably saw last year the push and pull.
Yeah.
He's too limited of a guy in the NHL to be trying to do two jobs at once.
I agree.
Jacob McDonald, I was comfortable getting away with it because Jacob McDonald's game looked exactly the same on defense and at forward. He was full go, all attack, all aggression, does not defend whatsoever. It didn't matter. So it was fine. Curtis McDermott fell apart last year. He was bad last year.
The difference there is Jacob McDonald, you know what you're going to get out of there. With McDermott, you put him on defense, he's going to try to defend, and he's just not going to be very good at it.
Yeah.
No, but he's what I'm saying is he's done it. So if you're on a road trip, we were talking about a road trip
No,
earlier,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like it's
totally.
it's 3:00 in the afternoon. What's his name? I don't know. Miles Wood. Has a stomach flu. You know what I mean? He's not feeling good. Bad meal the night before. Then all of a sudden he's incapable of playing. You're not in the panic mode because you're like, oh, Dermy can go back there and play a game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I know what you're saying. Try to form as a forward. I agree.
Totally.
But the funny story about McDonald is, trust me, these guys right next to me, they know way more about prospects and guys like that than I do.
McDermott, he's the emergency space blanket, right? If the Avs are on the East Coast and the Eagles are playing in California, you're going to call up a guy to take a 6-hour flight. No, just put McDermott in.
Exactly.
But to go back to McDonald, what I was trying to say is you guys are so much more better at digging and knowing prospects around the league. And here I am a few years ago in Loveland. I'm watching a game and, I write my report and I'm like, I don't have a history with Jacob McDonald. So I'm like, this guy's not a bad forward. This guy's not bad. He's playing forward. Like, A few months later, fast forward, he's playing D, and I'm like, at the NHL level, and I'm sitting in the press box, and I'm like, I'm shocked. I'm like, this guy's playing D. And then I'm like, looking at my reports, I'm like, because he was in Grand Rapids, so I didn't get to see a lot in the East, and I'm like, oh no, and someone taps me, he's like, no, he's a D. And I'm like, what? Like, I was convinced he was a forward. It was the funniest thing in the world, so that's just a nice testament to him, right? That, to be able to, National Hockey League's the best league in the world, right?
Yeah.
All of a sudden, he can play a little bit of both. It's pretty cool,
Yeah. It's something that I do think the Avs have prioritized a little bit of that flexibility to run 22, 21-man rosters over the last handful of years.
Yeah. And it's a really smart way to cut a corner on salary cap.
Yep.
It is.
If you're paying $900K for your 13th forward and your 7th D,
Yep.
you have an advantage because that means that's
an
extra $1 million
$800K in your pocket. Yep.
that you are not able to
accrues.
spend on the extra body is being spent maybe on a third-line guy.
In a cruise.
Yep.
It's the extra $500K that they gave to Tomas Tatar.
Yep.
So, it is a valuable thing.
Yep.
But we also saw with McDermott last year, he was so much worse than the year before that I could understand where they were just like, just be a forward.
Yep.
If we absolutely have to, fine. But right now, just be a forward.
So last 3 games, what are you crucially looking for?
Well, to start this segment, what you actually wanted to talk about, I'm looking at Josh Manson's health. I want to see him go all the way in a preseason game, and I want to make sure that his body just doesn't rip
Fail
apart.
him, yeah.
He needs to handle it.
He needs to get in there. And like I said, I said yesterday, or you go against your teammates in the corner. It's not the same thing. I know you want to go hard in practice, and everything, but it's not the same thing until you see an opponent that is not with you every day. And there is that little level of, push and, push back from that guy that's a little bit more. And even from exhibition to regular season. So I think it starts with him in exhibition. Get your rhythm, get your first of all, your confidence that your body's holding it. You know what I mean? That's it's a big one. You got to make sure your body's able to handle it.
Especially for someone like Josh.
Well, he
who
has to
plays
play
so
away.
Physical. Yeah.
So if Josh is trying to be Cale Makar or whatever, well, no offense to Josh, he's not that type of player. Yeah. He has to play a certain way. And there was that saying all the time, right? And Ty Domi used to say it all the time. If you're a crusher and you're trying to be a rusher, you often become an usher, right? Because you can't blame that league.
Great
you know what I mean? So it is. So Josh has to play a certain way. You're not getting all that in practice. You need to get that in games. So I think it's a valid point you just said. For me, tomorrow, for example, he needs to get in there and see how his body. I mean, I don't know if he's in there tomorrow. Again, we're just talking out loud. Maybe he's not ready.
There's 3 games left. He's got to get in.
Okay, one of
I
those.
want to see 2 of those, right?
He's got to get in there.
I want to see 2.
Yep.
He's got to get in there, see where he's at, and get his. Because it's all about confidence. Like I broke my sternum one time, and I tell you one thing, like you're like, oh my god, and they're like, you're ready, and it's like,
No
until you hit a guy, then you're like, okay, it's fine, you know what I mean? But it's not the same in practice going like this until, or you get hit and you get stamped on the board with aggression, and a guy wanting to get away, you know what I mean?
The broken sternum and coming back from it has always been a pocket theory for mine of why I thought Girard was so bad to start last year.
Oh, it is tough.
Is that I don't know that he was fully trusting himself.
And then by January, once he got comfortable again.
And then once he had played his way through some of that,
And they're saying Matthew Tkachuk, that's what it was, right, in the playoffs? I mean, that's what I read.
I actually don't know.
Yeah, that's what they were saying. That's what I read. And I'm like, I'll be ready to go. Well,
that guy's a psycho, so he may not even think about it again.
Yeah, I don't know.
Probably because that guy lives for contact, and Sam Girard's trying to find ways to survive it.
Yep, it's true. On that note, we are brought to you by Breckenridge Brewery, the official beer of DNVR. You can get 8 different kinds down here at the bar. Also, you might be able to drink a few at the Avs alumni event. Highly recommend you go check this out. It's tomorrow night. You can still get tickets. Eric will be there. A whole bunch of other Avs alumni will be there, 7 to 10 p.m. I know Megan will be there as well.
Megan will be there.
Tiff, our producer, will be there. Lots of people hanging out. Kind of a kickoff to the season from a bunch of the Avs alumni. So.
I do believe like Joel's gonna be there, Bednar's gonna be there. So I'm like a pigeon. You know what I mean? Like I'm like really at the bottom of the totem pole. So.
We'll try not to get too sloppy while we're there.
There you go.
It's fun.
It is a ticketed event, so make sure you get your tickets if you do want to go. The QR code right there on screen if you want to get in on that.
Yeah, mingle with the fellas. There's what do you call that? Golf simulator.
Yeah, they have
so it'll be fun.
a bunch of golf simulators down there. So
Rudo and I weren't invited.
Yeah, actually,
Not
I was
true.
invited.
Absolutely not true. I was pretty much begged to take the ticket.
That's
So.
true.
True, not true. Everybody was invited.
We just were not nearly cool enough to say yes.
Yeah, exactly.
There you go.
So go check that out if you want to have a great time tomorrow and get ready for the season with a bunch of Big Avs names. Also brought to you by Foco.com. Some of those guys you might see at the alumni event, you can get their bobbleheads over at Foco. When you go over to Foco.com and use the DNVR code, you get 10% off your order. Whatever it is, doesn't have to be bobbleheads. They have licensed apparel too. If you want clothes and jerseys and all that good stuff, you can get that through Foco as well. So go check them out. Again, Foco.com. Check out all their dope merch and be sure to use the DNVR code. Last thing to cover here. A lot of the big names have not played a game yet.
Yeah.
No McKinnon, no McCarr, no Rantanen. Do you care? Does it matter? Do they just need the last game and they're good to go? Do they even need that? Because we've seen Mikko roll into game one of the regular season and dominate.
For me, I care.
Okay.
Because I think Cale Makar has been a slow starter every year of his career.
That's true.
And so I want to see him, and there's an injury concern this season that is more important than this, but I want to see him play 2 of these games.
Okay.
And try to get, and I want to see him take them seriously. Try and get the timing, try and get the touch, you know. Not that I'm sitting here going, Cale Makar needs to do more because give me a break. He's a demigod, but, you know, he's been a slow starter.
But a hot start is the difference between an 80-point season and a 100-point season.
And I want
right?
him to win a fucking Hart Trophy.
It's coming.
I need a hot start, Cale.
It's coming. What's the bet on that? What's the odds?
You could probably get ridiculous odds on that, I'm sure.
I would bet on that.
Let me see.
I think McKinnon is like plus 1,500 or something to win it. And so Makar's got to be even more than that, I would imagine.
But you got 3 more games.
Yep.
By Bednar's presser today, I would say there's a couple more guys playing tomorrow still, right? You know, I mean, if we're put 2 and 2 together,
Like,
right, I would say.
It's the last home game. I'm sure a couple of those guys are like, don't make me travel.
Well, no, my point was like there'll be some, you know, names that won't start the season in Colorado. That will be. That's what I meant.
Okay,
yeah.
I got it.
But if I'm them, like, you know, obviously I want to play a couple games if I'm Mikko, and you know what I mean? So maybe they play 2 out of 3, right? Or maybe a home game tomorrow, Mac, those guys, right? And then maybe not go to, you know, one of the 2 games. Where is it Dallas and Vegas, right? That's after that.
Yep.
Those are all day trips, so it's not a big
Not too
deal.
bad,
But,
yeah.
you know, I think if you play 2 out of 3, get in the rhythm, get going, find your game, feel good about yourself, you know. I think it's important.
And to your point at the start, the Eagles camp starts on Monday.
That's right.
So you play the game Sunday if you're an Ivan. You're
gone.
And then,
Yeah.
okay, go to Eagles camp on Monday.
Yeah.
Plus 2,200.
Oh, that's a nice bet.
He's at plus 175 to win the Norris. And to be honest with you, if you're going to bet on him winning the Hart, he's obviously winning the Norris.
Yeah.
You should
so
parlay
bet
them.
both.
I might go deposit some money and put the Norris bet down at plus 175.
Put them both down.
McDavid's too good, man.
I don't know. I'm doing it. There's a stare there.
I will put the
stare.
Norris bet down. I'm not putting the Hart bet down.
Well, I'm putting
If
both.
I was going to put a Hart bet, also I'd put it on McKinnon this year for the record.
He's at plus 1,000. It's not like it's a bad bet.
I consider that one.
McDavid's only plus 100 for the Hart. So it's
That's
like,
so you don't. I mean, there's no reason to bet it.
I mean, it still wins you money, but
No,
it's
no, I
like,
know.
It's like you waited 7 months to cash this thing and you won $50, you know? Neat.
All right. Anything else we want to add in this preseason roundup?
So much, man. There's still so much for that to talk about, but it's like
Every second of every day, it
Yeah.
gets more and more. We are off tomorrow, but we will have a post game for you after Sunday's game, so be sure to tune in to that. And then we're live Monday, Friday next week. We also will have season preview videos coming to you probably next weekend, maybe something like that. What?
Devin Levi's at plus 1,200 for the Calder.
Oof.
You know what's
I'm
really
doing that
funny,
one,
though?
too.
Jean-Luc Foudy is plus 10,000. He's on the board, though.
That's funny that he's actually on there.
So's Oscar Olsen.
Not even going to touch that. We're going to get out of here.
Wow.
We appreciate all y'all hanging out with us as always. We'll see you Sunday night on that show. Like and subscribe here on YouTube because the content never stops here. We're rolling all season long with tons and tons of stuff. We'll talk to you on the next one.